everybody, it is K-Mac, K-Mac Draws, and today I wanted to keep talking about Wally Wood. He's the guy that's in the corner, and in the last live stream, something I said was that the piece that I was working on reminded me of Prince Valiant, but better, and I couldn't have known, but, well, I guess I could have known. I could have done, like, even the smidgen of research before I started that live stream. But Prince Valiant was created by a guy named Hal Foster, and it is a beautiful strip. Like, everything about it is drawn beautifully. I do have a strip up, and this is not drawn by Hal Foster. This is a really recent one. It's still going. And it's by these other guys. And so when I said it felt like Prince Valiant but worse, like, this is the Prince Valiant art that I'm thinking of. Like, I'm thinking of this modern incarnation of it. And something that I didn't know a few days ago was that Hal Foster was apparently, like, Wally Wood was obsessed with him, which is probably why his style reminds me of the Prince Valiant style, because like, I guess the lore goes that, like, he was so obsessed with Prince Valiant, Wally Wood was, that at the age of 2, he would, like, trace the Prince Valiant comics, which I'm like, 2, I don't know, that seems, like, kind of mythical, but it says so on the internet, so it must be true. And then I also discovered that, so Hal Foster drew the strip from, like, 1940 or, like, in the late 1930s until about 1970, when he couldn't, draw the strip anymore. And what happened was Wally Wood actually drew a Prince Valiant strip, and that's the piece that I'm going to be working from today. So this is Wally Wood's impression, or, like, his making of Prince Valiant. And, there couldn't be anyone more qualified if he's, like, obsessed. This must have been, like, a dream come true for him. He doesn't actually go on to, illustrate the strip. He just does, I think, like, this one strip that I could find. But he draws it very beautifully. And the other thing that I was talking about last time was the Prince Valiant haircut. And you can see it. Like, here's Prince Valiant. Here's his, like, sort of terrible haircut. And Wally Wood actually did, like, a parody of this for Mad Magazine, and he called it Prince Violent, and I'll show it to you guys sometime, but it's actually pretty funny, because at the end of the strip, his wife, this is his wife, she, like, ends up cutting his hair. So I am always fascinated with hair, because I think I'm really bad at drawing it, so I'm, like, really, like, drawn to, like, this image, because I want to be able to draw hair like this. But there's some things that, like looking at this hairstyle, I'm like, what is happening? Like, what is this? Like, what are these things right here? Because those are, like, ring curls. And I'm like, what woman wears ring curls just at the bottom of her hair and, like, not at the top? Like, what hairstyle is that? It's not great, because, well, I don't know. So then I started researching it, and, like, I just want to show you, like, so this is, like, how you get that hairstyle. You have to, like, it's like a cold way. Like, nowadays we have heat that we can make these curls in our hair, and, so that's something that's, like, kind of similar to the look that's going on. But it does take, like, a lot of work. Like, it's a lot of work to get that kind of hair. So I'm like, you're in your nightgown, you've just kicked your husband out of bed. Like, that's what's happening in this comic. She's like, what a vast and lonely desert the bed is. Once upon a time, Val used to sprawl over it, hog the covers and snore. Good riddance. She's kicked him out. And I'm like, who is in their nightgown with hair like this? So one of the things that you forget is, like, or I forgot, is, like, her hair isn't always like that. She usually has, like, a really fancy hairstyle. And it's like, it's really complicated, her hair. So, like, here's the view of the back of her hair. Like, she's got it, like, up in this, like, weird pine cone thing. And then there's, like, maybe there's, like, a butt on top of her head. Like, I mean, she's just got a lot going on. And actually what this drawing is missing is that, like the curly parts that we see, like, they go in the front. They're, like, I don't know, it's medieval times. It's, like, it's fine. You can have hair that looks like that. But just that it takes a lot of work. And I have a theory, and I can't prove it, but I feel like sometimes male illustrators don't like think about that kind of thing, like how hard it is to have hair like this, and that if she's like taking her hair down from that like super complex hair arrangement, she's gonna brush out like this stuff right here. She's not gonna leave that as heat set as like cold set curls. Like she's if she's taken the whole thing down, she's gonna let all her hair down. She's not gonna have these curls. But it doesn't matter. Like, I'm the only one on earth that's ever thought about this. But the part about it that's so funny is like you see the picture, like how much effort it is to get that curly hair. And then we look at Prince Valiant's best friend, Sir Gawain, and he has the same hair. So he's like doing that same thing at night. He's like, you know, he's got his like squire that like gets his hair up in the curls, and I'm like, what does this say about Prince Valiant? He just likes people with curly hair. I don't know. Like, I don't know what that means. I just love that Gawain also has this like really intensive hairstyle. It's like it's for everybody. It's not just for the ladies. Okay, that's enough of that. Today when I'm inking, like, so this is like a master study again, and one of the things I found last time I was doing this is that these are the brushes again by Ink Gang Boss, Vintage Ink, and he's got, you know, this sort of collection of brushes that he's worked on, and I really do like the thick and thin that comes with this brush. Like, I think that is something I really like. Like, I like that style, but one of the things I like less about it is it has a really round end. Like, this end to it is round. Like, and not so much with this work, but in some of like his Wally Wood's other brush work, like, it's not like these, it doesn't end in a round way. And maybe it's just because this is like in the Prince Valiant style that I'm like not seeing the specific thing that I want an example of. I guess you can kind of see it here, like in the well, I don't know, maybe I'm just like being too picky. I just feel like a brush maybe sometimes has less of that. Like, it has like a more square into it. I don't know how to describe what I'm thinking of. And I can't see it necessarily here, but it's a really long way of saying that I've just been trying other brushes in this pack to see if it like gets that difference in the edge to it. And so something else that comes with it is Quill Pen. And so Quill Pen is a pen. It's not a pen. It's not a brush. It's just something that has, it has a nib. Like, so if it gives that sort of like nice thick and thin, like look how thick it gets. So thick. But it also kind of gives like, it can give you a really thin line. And it's meant to imitate like a nib. So it's like if you had a real crow quill, you could only go like one direction with it. But since this is digital, it, you know, we have all the advantages and none of the disadvantages. I guess the advantage that we don't have is we don't get like that same effect. But that's like that it would be if it were on paper. It's like you don't get the I don't know, just the feel of pen on paper. Like, you're always it's never going to be quite the same, but that's all right. And so now I just want to like practice. I wonder if maybe I'm even in too close, because like this is meant to be on like a piece of paper, and sometimes if you zoom in too much you can get like too caught up in the details. But it was really interesting when I was like trying to figure out like what Wally Wood was what he was using to ink, to find out that he was so obsessed with Hal Foster and Prince Valiant. I remember Prince Valiant from when I was a kid. We got the newspaper, which gives you some clue of like how old I am. And we would, if we were really lucky, my dad would go into town, because we lived in the country, and he would get a better newspaper on Sunday. And that's when you would read the Prince Valiant strip. And so the newspaper that we got had 2 pages of comics. No, it only had one page of comics. That was the disadvantage of our newspaper. But they would deliver it to our house, and it wasn't like extra money. And we got delivery 6 days a week, but not on Sundays. And Sundays is when you have like the best paper. And that's that's the day that has color comics. So that's what was so fun about Sundays, is that you got, twice the comics and they were in color. But I was like, as a kid, I just wasn't into Prince Valiant, and I can't believe that it's still going. I read online that it's had like 4,000 strips, like, and it's just been like continuously going. Because as a kid, I thought it was so boring. It was like hard to follow. I wonder if I would get into it now. I don't know. I just haven't found like a really easy way to like consume comics now that I don't get the paper anymore. Just because it's like you have to sign up for a site and then like choose the ones you want. I don't know. It's just like sometimes once it's not easy to like access that media anymore, like you just stop accessing it. But I don't know. I liked the comics. That's basically the point of the story. I thought Prince Valiant was weird and I didn't read it, but now like looking at, and I'll do a Hal Foster sort of examination. See, this is when it's like gets pixelated like this, it's like I have to make more decisions about like how I want it to look when I'm like, wait, I don't know what I'm doing. I haven't like figured out yet like completely this live streaming thing, because I like watched a video on how to do crow quill illustrations to just kind of get a sense of like what I was meant to be trying to do with this brush. And I really wanted to play like a clip from the video that was like, hey, I'm a professional and I'm like showing you how to do crow quill stuff, and don't watch stuff from non-professionals because they don't know what they're doing. And I'm like, man, why'd you have to call me out like that? Oh no, look, I've been doing it all on the actual layer. Okay, we have to start all over again. That's like a lesson learned. It's live, people. I was like, we can't go back and edit it. I mean, I could. No one's watching this. Like, literally no one is watching this, but that's fine. That's what's good about Procreate, is you can undo. Actually, sometimes I don't mind, like, if I do this and I don't catch it, because then, like, if I feel like I haven't been doing a great job, I can just, like, start again. I think maybe I'll start in a different spot this time. And I need to get out of the habit of, like, getting so close to the image. Like, that's always the instinct. But sometimes it's easier, actually, when you're far away. Okay, so I'm just checking on the stream. Again, no one's watching, that's fine. I had another, like, YouTube channel, and not that many people watched that one either. But people did watch some of it, and I remember, like, before I started it, I was like, oh my gosh, like, I was so nervous about, like, putting something on the internet, and I was like, oh no, what if, like, people are really mean, and, like, what if, like, I get doxxed, or, like, what if somebody, like, starts stalking me, and, I was like, oh, what if, like, I have to start wearing sunglasses at the grocery store? Like, no, I don't think I went that far, but I feel like there's definitely this fear of, like, putting stuff on the internet, and then when you actually do it and no one watches it, you're like, oh, okay, like, nobody cares. Like, nobody cares enough to, like, send a SWAT to your house. Like, that's not gonna happen. Like, you're gonna be lucky if you get, like, 6 views and one person being like, this was okay. Like I said earlier, since this is pixelated, I have to, like, make more decisions about how this is gonna look, and that's sometimes, like, kind of nerve-wracking, but that's alright. Let me get in the other features. So, the big difference with the Quill Pen is the way it ends. Like, you can see it has, like, more of a... It doesn't have a round ending to it. It has this shape. And so, like, if you go into where the brush is, into the editing, we've got the taper. So the shape is different. Like, it almost looks kind of like the bat symbol, except without the bat in the middle. Yeah, I think the one thing I don't love about this brush is, like, that part. Like, when you start, it has, like, a little notch out of it. Like, if you're trying to start fat. But I do like that you can start fat. That wasn't something you can do. I could have done as easily with the other one. Okay, let's look at that. See, I feel like that looks alright. I don't love like this stuff on the mouth, but that's maybe I can clean that up a little bit. Wally's just like, his line work is so good, and especially when he's imitating, or when he's like paying homage to Prince Valiant, because like Hal Foster's like original stuff is really beautiful. And then once I saw it, I was like, I felt kind of bad that I'd been like, oh, it looks like Prince Valiant but better, because Prince Valiant was like the start of it, you know. It's like, it's what the others, like everyone who came after, was aspiring to be like, because it was just such like beautiful line work. And you can really, like, when you start to look at the old Prince Valiants, you can like really see see where he got that inspiration from. So I think I'm like going back on this. I don't love the way that looks. Sometimes I'm gonna just make sure I've got the right erasing brush. Sometimes with erasing, like this monoline calligraphy can be kind of nice, because it's like it's got hard edges. So if you just want to like, I feel like with drawing, and especially with cartooning faces, the thing I found is that like the face has to be like, if you spend 40 hours on the face and like 10 seconds on everything else, it's like time well spent, just because it's so important that the facial features look right. Let's see if that looks better. Yeah, he does such a good job with faces. Like, he's really good at faces. I think that's where I messed up. I was trying to get that shading in a way. Ugh. Gonna make her a little sexier. Okay, let's look at the face again. Yeah, like, he's just so good at that. That looks so beautiful. And it looks real. It doesn't look like cartoony. Like, if I ever come back to like Prince Valiant, the Mad Magazine parody that he did, I just feel like it really highlights like the seriousness of Prince Valiant. Like, everyone is drawn in a really serious way. Like, nobody's like a comedic character. Like, everyone is like, I don't know, it's just like fine art, I guess they would say, but like with an ink pen. The thing with the video that I wasn't able to get to play, that the professional Quill user said, was that this isn't really the kind of pen. I don't think this is the kind of pen that Wally Wood used. I think that Wally Wood used a brush instead of a nib. I mean, he might have used both, but the Quill isn't quite the same for like that thick and thin line. So I wanna like, okay, I'll go back. That's where I messed it up. It's like the lines, like, just as they start to curve. There we go. That looks a little closer. I don't love that, but I'm guessing that once I get the rest of like the setting in, it will look better. I do think it's kind of funny that, I don't know, funny is the wrong word. And here, like, I'm like going a little, like here, these are a little bit stronger. Like, this has like a little bit more weight to it, just in terms of, I don't think like the Quill is like completely capturing what's happening here, but that's okay. It's just practice. But I was gonna say, I think it's appropriate, I guess, that I'm tracing Wally Wood pieces, and Wally Wood like did the same thing to learn. Like, so I don't know, it feels like validating in a way, where it's like, oh, this isn't just like wasted time. Like, this is something, like, this is a legitimate thing to do. And again, like, that guy that's like, don't watch people who don't know what they're doing. I'm like, well, yes, one, don't do that. Like, that's me. I don't know what I'm doing, really. But, I mean, I feel like there can be value in this, like, even if it's just for me, to, like, go through the process of learning. And I think sometimes that can be interesting for other people to watch. So maybe someday if someone stumbles upon this and, like, assuming I don't abandon it, might be able to be like, oh, wow, she got better. Like, that would be my hope. Like, I got better. Like, I'm not, like, I don't know, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I would love to be able to do this professionally. I'm a graphic designer, like, in my everyday life. And, like, I'd like to produce my, you know, just the ideas I have in my head. And I'd, like, if someone wanted to pay me to, like, ink stuff, I'd be like, wow, that's like my 4-year-old self didn't even know that was an option for making money, but she's thrilled. Because all I ever wanted to do was, like, color. But, yeah, I don't know. I kind of lost where I was going with that. I don't like the way that looks. I feel like it's just, like, not quite there. Yeah, so I guess maybe the point was that I'm not a professional. I don't claim to be. Although, if you'd like to pay me, I would also enjoy that. But you can't get to that point. Like, that was the other thing the guy said in the video, is like, you can't get to the point of being a professional without, like, hours and hours and hours of practice. And my practice I just happened to be broadcasting it on the internet. One of the things about Wally Wood's style, and now, you know, sort of Hal Foster style, is just this, like, super clean line work. Like, and then describing shading through just sort of simple, but, like, detailed lines. I think that's what someone said about, like, Hal Foster style. It's like, it's not like it's super complicated, but it is very detailed. And, like, you know exactly what's happening. See, this is where the variation of the Quill Pen comes in nice, because I can do it all in one swoop. Like, get that nice line. Let's look at how that looks without. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what. I feel like it doesn't quite look right, but I can't tell if I just, like, need more context for it. I think there's a couple things that are making it look wrong. Like, so look at this. Let me make another layer. Look at this piece right here, and look at these two pieces right here. So when I look at mine, like, because this goes out instead of curving in, like here I've gone too far, here it curves in, like we start to, like, lose the shape. Like I'll erase it and show you what I mean. Like, if I just kind of curve it in there instead of, like, extending, and then these I think are not quite. See, again, over. It just, like, completes the space of it. Like, I think it, and even though these aren't originally there, I think this will just give it, like, a better sense of, like, where these things are meant to end. And I think I miss, like, just by having that there. I'm hoping that just those small changes will. Yeah, now it looks more like a thing. It maybe looks like wrapping paper, but it looks like a thing. I feel like I can. Not perfect, but I can move on. I'm always interested in hair. I think because I've always really struggled to draw it, so just, like, examining how this is done, even though I think it's, like, a completely, like, horrifying hairstyle for a lady with these big curls at the end, but you know, we'll live with that. And I think the part that's hard is just like just imagining where it all goes, and like, or like how many lines do I need to like give the essence of this hairstyle to like make it read as hair, and how many lines can I leave out. um, and I think one of the tricks of it is, see, I almost feel like the brush is just like slightly too thick, so I'm just gonna take it down like just a little bit. Is like just observing hair. Oh, why did that happen? Well, okay, well we can draw again. Yeah, like these are like, because they're curls, they're rounder, and it's like, where does it sit? Where does it get dark? And this is Alita, who is, I think that's her name, is Prince Valiant's wife, even though they're fighting in this comic. Um, and she has blonde hair, so it's like lighter haired characters. And see here, it's really important for it to hit that spot. Lighter haired characters have, I don't know, light haired characters and dark haired characters I think are almost reversed. Like if she'd had like dark hair, we would be like making all of this black and then erasing out, which is, you know, honestly what happens with Prince Valiant. Like, because she's blonde, everything is white, and then because he has dark color hair, like with just the highlights, he almost kind of has like a bowling ball head. Gosh, I mean, like, who has this haircut, honestly? It's funny, it's like 4,000 strips, and it's like, what do people know most about him? Oh, his hair. I guess there was a movie in 1997, and there's been like cartoons, but I just feel like, who talks about Prince Valiant? Who's like, oh yeah, I'm a huge Prince Valiant fan. Like it just doesn't seem to have a fandom. Like you know, we're not like remaking the 1400 Prince Valiant movie. People, like, you don't see people wearing like Prince Valiant shirts. Like, I'm just like, who's keeping this alive? Who's like demanding these 4,000 Prince Valiant strips? Like, who could name like one storyline? I'm sure there's like, I'm sure these people exist. I'm just like having trouble picturing it. But I guess the thing I've learned is that just because I'm not that person doesn't mean that person isn't out there. So I don't know, if you're the Prince Valiant person, you ever see this, like, let me know why you love it. I mean, I'm one to talk. Like, of all the comic strips, like, so I was a kid reading comics probably from like probably 1990 to 1997. That would have been like my prime years, and maybe even some before that. I would have been 8 in 1990, so it could have been like even 1989. Yeah, see, that looks alright. It does look a little pixelated. Like, I still have to figure out. I don't know if it's just because the brush is too small. Like, you can see over here, it looks better. And over here, like especially like right here, I don't love the effect. It might be just that you can't have this brush that small. If I were submitting this to someone, I would go back and do that again, but I'm not gonna worry about it right now. But so the comics that I loved most were things that you would totally expect for a kid my age to love, which would be Calvin and Hobbes, The Far Side, Garfield. Those, and also like Garfield, Calvin and Hobbes, and The Far Side. Those were books. Like, we had collections of those books at my house. So I would just spend hours and hours and hours and hours and hours reading through the same Garfield comic book, through the same Calvin and Hobbes books. We had all the Calvin and Hobbes books, like all of them. And some of the other ones I liked would be like, or that at least I've read, Dagwood and Blondie, Family Circus, Gasoline Alley, Hagar the Horrible, Kathy, Marmaduke. I wonder, now that I'm drawing these, I feel like they all, like I was drawing them kind of randomly ending, and then there's actually like a space for them. Like he's got something in mind. And then again, the Mad magazines that my brother had, like that was like my comic education. Oh, and for better or for worse. I'm sure there were more. Like they rotated in and out. Like another one that we had books for was Doonesbury, which like I don't know. When you're a kid, you think you know the stuff. And I'm not saying like 8-year-old me was like, oh my god, I'm so smart, but like Doonesbury was one of those ones where, like one, I think the character design is so ugly. Like their noses are all so weird. But like I didn't get any of the jokes. Like Doonesbury was like a very, very topical comic. And I was like, oh boy, do I know anything about Ronald Reagan? No. Do I know anything about George H. Bush? No, I don't. I know nothing. I'm 8 years old. Like, maybe 10, 12. Like, but I'm like, I don't know. Very political. Anyway. But there was one that I could never really get into, and that was, God, it had like a penguin? Opal country, maybe? Like, I just didn't get the jokes. And that's fine. Not everything has to be for, like, a 10-year-old girl. I mean, if I'm being honest, I probably didn't get the jokes in Kathy, and that was, like, more for 10-year-olds than Opal County? I don't know. They were always at, like, a diner. I guess there were other serious comics, too, but like I said, the ones we got, the paper we got only had one page of comics, like, on the daily, so I would, like, read all the dailies. Foxtrot, I remember when that came out. I really liked that one. Also, Wally Wood is being really restrained here with the boobs. He loves drawing boobs. Like, he just loves it. It's like his favorite thing in life, I think. Drawing titties. And if you don't believe me, like, just look up his Sally Forth stuff. It's all titties. Bless him. Somebody's got to draw him. I think Mutt and Pearl. Sorry, now I'm just like naming things. That's what happens when you like kind of ramble through your own live stream. It's just like free association talking. But the reason that I liked the comics section, I think, was I was the youngest person in my family, and I remember really distinctly like there being a time in my life where like I was aware that everyone in my family could read, and that I could not read. So when we would get the paper, sometimes the comics was the only section that like really felt accessible to me. Like I wasn't gonna read sports. I wasn't gonna read, like, I wouldn't understand like world affairs. There was like a living section that sometimes had stuff that I was interested in, but like comics, like for a kid, was always accessible, like because it was pictures. And oftentimes it wasn't the first thing that anyone in my family wanted to read, so I could get, that was the part of the paper, like if everyone's sitting down to read something, like my brother's reading the sports section, my mom is reading, I don't know, whatever my mom read, like the front page, like my dad is reading the business section. Oh god, these are all horrible gender stereotypes, but I mean you get what I'm saying. And what would be left? The comics for me. The comics, the TV Guide, and Parade magazine, which I didn't really read the article, I just was like looking through it for the comics. Although now that I think about it, the other stuff that we had coming in the house that had comics was the New Yorker, and I certainly, like, as a kid was not reading the New Yorker. Like I wasn't, like, there was no way I was that kid. But they did have comics in it, and that's what I would read. I'd read comics, and I'd read the movie reviews, except like the movie reviews to like a 12-year-old in the New Yorker are almost insufferable, because it seems like they never like anything. as an adult now, I can understand why they didn't like give Air Bud 2 a good review, but just at the time it was like, man, you guys are being like unnecessarily picky about what movies are good and bad. Yeah, I think this brush, like, you can't take it down to the lowest level or you're not going to get the effect. So I'm wondering, like, if, like, this... I don't know. Not to, like, be a boob person, but I'm just like, I don't know that I really, like, got it. I think maybe, like, maybe it's this section right here. Like, how these go from thick to thin, because it's, like, the underside. I wonder if I can capture that a little bit better. Get back to the right layer. I've been thinking about Calvin and Hobbes lately, just because, as I've been thinking more about inking. See, these all kind of look the same. I wonder... Sorry, I keep getting, like, off track. Like, start light, then go heavy. But Bill Watterson, like, he was an artist. And I think about, like, the contrast between him and Jim Davis a lot, and Jim Davis is the creator of Garfield, and Jim Davis, like, set out, like, he like straight up admitted it. He's like, listen, I'm just gonna make this dumb cat. Like, what can I get the most merchandising money from? Oh, it's gonna be this fat cat that hates Mondays. And I will say this to Jim Davis is, like, he was not lazy, or at least he wasn't lazy at the beginning. I feel like a lot of people come into Garfield, like, in the modern era. God, boy, I shouldn't, like, spill all my Garfield facts before I do, like, a Garfield study. But a lot of people that I know now, when I'm like, because I unironically love Garfield. I just, like, I have such a fondness for that character, mainly because we had so many books of his when I was a kid, and I would just, like, sit and read them. Like my parents were so annoying, and they had, like, limits on screen time, so I would just, like, read the same collection of Calvin and Hobbes or Garfield books over and over and over again. But I think a lot of people now have maybe come to Garfield through, like, more mimetic sources. Like, there's a subreddit called I'm Sorry, John, and it's about, like, Garfield is sort of this eldritch horror thing, and people, like, do all these, like, funny, like he's a demon, like, Garfield's a demon that's eating John. And I like it, but, like, if that's, like, your introduction to Garfield, you don't really see the, like, humor or, like, the charm of how Jim Davis, like, originally characterized him. And the other way that people sometimes, like, and it's less so now, but came to Garfield was through this thing called Garfield without Garfield. And it's just, like, what are the strips like if you remove Garfield from them? And some of the much later strips, like, it is very funny to take Garfield out, and, like, you don't really need him. But the early stuff, like his first collection of Garfield comics, like you really do need Garfield. Like, Garfield's a critical component. Like, the strips don't make sense without him. So I'm always sort of like, when people are like, oh my gosh, I love Garfield without Garfield, or, like, I'll say I love Garfield, and then they'll say they love Garfield without Garfield, and I'm like, no, you don't get it. Like, there's so much more. But which is all a really long way of saying, like I had, like, a different thing to say about it, is that Jim Davis drew every panel. Like, even if Garfield was, like, in the same position, he would redraw Garfield every time. So he wasn't phoning it in, at least in the beginning. But so Bill Watterson, exact opposite, who did Calvin and Hobbes, like, he never sold out. He, like, never wanted Calvin to be merchandised. He didn't want like people to be buying Hobbes stuffed animals. He didn't want there to be like Calvin and Hobbes movies. He like wanted it to stay pure, which like that's fine. But I'd rather be like Jim Davis. I'd rather sell out. But I was looking up their respective net worths, and the difference between selling out and not selling out when you have like a best-selling, beloved comic book icon is that Jim Davis has $800 million, and Bill Watterson has $100 million. So it's about $7 million, the difference between $700 million between selling out and not selling out. But then the depressing part is that there's another guy. Not depressing. This isn't depressing. It's not depressing at all that someone has $800 million. But there's another guy named Jim Davis, and he is the CEO of New Balance, and he's worth like $1 billion. So like, beloved cartoon cat that has brought so much to the world is like always inherently less valuable than the guy who runs a sneaker company. Maybe that's unfair, but listen, you came to this for capitalism and line work, right? I'm sure all you, let's see, all of you who are here, which is like 0 people. The thing is like concurrent viewers, like that's me, I think. So I'm really just talking to myself for now. I feel like maybe I did say it earlier, but I had a channel where I like read things out loud, and it started out no one was watching it, but like if you leave stuff up there, eventually someone might watch it. Eventually it might find its audience. So it's like I'm not discouraged that no one is watching this thing that I didn't promote or tell anyone about, or or I don't even really know how to promote. But I'm just like, oh, if I keep doing this, maybe someone will see it. And if you are that someone seeing it, thank you. Thank you for listening. I hope it's been slightly entertaining or helpful in some way. I haven't really been talking about the inking so much, but what are you gonna do? I'm just gonna pretend that you're learning through watching. I know I'm learning something. There was another time in my life that I paid attention to comics because they were in a format that was really easy for me to access. And it was way back in the day, maybe, I'm trying to remember when exactly, but I used to lurk on the Something Awful forums a lot. And now I'm more on Reddit, but I haven't checked to see if there's a comics, like a newspaper comics subreddit. I'm sure there is. There's subreddits for everything. But at the time, there was like a really dedicated crew of people who liked newspaper comics, and they would post all the comics every day. And it was like, oh great, I can read all the comics in one place. Like that's usually what stops me. Like I don't want to sign up for like a syndication service, and like, I don't know. Like I just haven't found and I haven't looked, but I haven't found a way to like consume comics very easily. But so people would just like post all the comics every day, and then people would do these like hilarious edits of them. It was so great. Like that was I missed that forum. This isn't such a bad ink job. Like I don't think it's like quite there. I think I'm going too heavy on some of this stuff up top. I think that is what, like, he has a much softer thing going on, and mine is way too heavy, and I'm not quite sure what the difference is. I'm absolutely sure, or I'm pretty sure that he uses a brush and not a Quill Pen, so I'm wondering if I did more of that, like if that would give me sort of like that softer look to it. And not be so heavy right there. I wonder if I could get away with just, let's take that even, so then it's not so dark. This is like, again, quick and dirty. I feel like the thickness isn't like the worst. Okay. No, it is kind of the worst. Like this, I feel like this doesn't look good. Like it's not quite there. I think it's just because these are too thick. Like it doesn't look right, especially this one. Like let's just erase it for real. Let's look and see what it actually looks like. Yeah, mine was just like too thick. I think that's better. I think that's much better. I don't know. Maybe I'm just crazy. No, I'm not crazy. I'm trying not to say like stuff like that because I think it's ableist, and I just think it's like, oh, that's maybe I'm just bananas. Maybe I'm just nuts. Like it cost me nothing not to say crazy, so I apologize. Yeah, I think she looks all right. Like I feel like the hair isn't like exactly right, but I like parts of it a lot. And he does such nice faces. Like these are such nice lady eyes. And I don't know if that's just because I like this comic style, that I find it so like attractive. Just the way that he does faces, and Hal Foster, like because he's doing it in his style, like Hal Foster just like knows how to make a comic book face. Like his style is so beautiful. And there's I don't know like how relevant this style is now, because I feel like a lot of the comics I see don't. Maybe this look is old-fashioned now, or maybe like people just have like they've moved on to other things. I'm not saying I've like read every comic everywhere, but I just think it looks great and I like it. I don't know, like I feel like my own style doesn't look like this when I draw things, but I wish it did. I feel like I'm always in this place where I'm like trying to draw things that look like this, and then I end up drawing something that's like really weird and not like this at all. Maybe that's every artist. Now I'm like, oh, can I even call myself an artist? I don't know. Here's that other thing that he does where he's got like these two sort of guidelines. It's easier that way to have like that. Oh, can I stop? It's just nice to have like a line to start from. And here I won't. But like I feel like this is good practice too, to like, can I start and stop exactly where I want to, or am I overshooting? Like that was the problem with some of the hair earlier, is that I wasn't like getting it exactly. You can see here he's kind of got like these connection points. That's kind of interesting. It's also like kind of color that in a bit. Ugh, not like that. This isn't quite right, but what are you gonna do? Yeah, I don't know, this crow quill brush, I don't know if I can get it like as small as I need, because like this looks super pixelated. I think I'd have to print it out to like see how well it works. I feel like I'm missing something in the hair. Like I haven't filled in like... There we go. That looks nicer, I think. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's give this a little whoop-de-doo. That's a technical term, by the way, a little whoop-de-doo. Procreate has this nice thing where, like, if you hold, it'll make a straight line. And sometimes I like that, and sometimes I don't, because sometimes it's annoying. because it just takes time. And like, see this, how this isn't a perfectly straight line, but we're gonna live with it today. Yeah, you can see this kind of thing where sometimes he just, like, he has these guidelines. Ugh. And then the feather comes out of it. It's just, like, super simple ways to, like, throw this drapery. Just to give, like, the sense of, you know, sort of texture of the curtains. But, like, let's be honest, nobody's here for the curtains. They're here for the hair. All the glorious hair. Okay, let's look at that. Yeah, not bad. I feel like since the eyes turned out okay, like everything else is alright. I feel like I could, like, give a little, like, love to the lips. Just make them, like, a little tiny bit thicker. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, not bad. Another wonderful drawing session with Mr. Wally Wood. I'm hoping I can figure out how to, like, get music and video and, like, all that stuff. Because I think that would be super cool. Yeah, it's YouTube. I'm not quite sure, like, how long I have to let it go after I stop talking, because last time it got cut off, but that's also fine. But you know, all that usual YouTube jazz, like comment, subscribe, which again feels ridiculous to say because no one's watching this, but also I used to work at a marketing agency, and I know that if you say something like, comment, and subscribe, it's a lot more likely that someone listening would actually do those things. So even though I feel ridiculous, I'll say it. I don't feel ridiculous for saying, if you watched all of this, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again real soon.